Walter Kaufman. I'm sure I'll be easily be able to find it. Walter Kaufman. Walter Kaufman. I'm sure I'll be easily be able to find it. I'm sure I'll be easily be able to find it. Nice echo.
Hi, Andre. It's good to see you.
Hi, Marin. Hi. How are you?
Fine, very busy, but thank you for your extensive note. Must have taken a long time to put it on.
That's wonderful.
Did
Thank
did you
you.
did you use AI for the Chinese or did you translate it?
Yes, for the Chinese, I use AI, yes, because I don't have the specific knowledge to write in Chinese, but I write in English and put in the AI, usually the GPT chat, and no, sorry, DeepSeek. And so they translate to Chinese. So, but the problem is he kind of used the modern traditional. Oh, sorry, modern Chinese, not traditional one. I don't know. This
You have
is
to
could.
correct it. I mean, you can ask someone to, pay or someone to look at it.
Yes, yes.
And
I share I share with Payol and Uni Alan to read and I don't know point some errors, something like that. And this is I don't know. I think it could be useful for the Chinese fellows.
yes, no, it's really good, important.
That's good.
Everything takes time. I know you.
Yeah, but in fact, takes time to write in English. But the OpenAI part is very simple, just 1 minute.
Oh,
uh, it's very very fast. So this is amazing, but also kind of maybe worry about it if it's right or not. So, but thank you.
Hey, we're live stream, just so you know again.
Oh,
I'm gonna start recording too, right? We're a minute away now, so. Okay.
Okay, so the time now is 3:01, and today is August the 3rd of 2025. Welcome everyone to the New York Chin Society bi-monthly regular gathering online. And this time we're going to be having a nice mix of discussion as well as listening to some playing. So welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about primarily the art of Chin learning and Chin teaching. And today, what will be the first thing on the menu? That would be, we'll be starting with talks by on Guqin pedagogy and having exclusive video performances by various members of the society. So I guess we'll start off with Peyo in the beginning, where she'll be talking about, let's see, Peyo, if you want to introduce your topic of the day.
Yes, thank you, Uni. Hello, everyone. So let me share my screen first, so you can see what I'm going to present. Okay, so many of you may remember that the New York Chin Society has hosted several online Yaji in recent years, focusing on the theme of Guqin learning. I shared my own learning experience on July 18, 2021. If you visit our website and look up the event on 2020 from 2021, okay, July 18, right? So you will find our discussion from that time. But today I'd like to share a few personal reflections on the art of learning, self-taught and master. Although we're here to talk about learning the Guqin, I'd like to draw on my experience in another art form, seal carving, to illuminate the same principles. Here, I'd like to start by showing you an image of some seal carvings. On the screen, the top 3 seals were carved by renowned masters. The bottom 3 were carved by someone who has been self-learning for 4 years. I'm sure that as soon as you see it, you can immediately sense the difference. Even without knowledge of seal carving, one can still notice the contrast in the quality. The seals by the masters are delicate. The lines are as fine as iron wire, consistent in thickness, and the black and white spatial balance is steady and harmonious. In contrast, the lower 3 clearly have lines that are not yet as fine or steady, and the overall composition still has room for improvement. That someone is actually me. The 3 seals above were carved by the masters Wang Zhuangwei and Jiang Zhaoshen. Both were highly respected figures in painting, calligraphy, and seal carving. Jiang Zhaoshen even served as the deputy director of the National Palace Museum in Taipei. From a young age, both received guidance from their families, along with mentorship from accomplished teachers. In addition to self-study, in contrast, my journey into seal carving began purely out of personal interest. I studied at the age of 53 and have been entirely self-taught. I choose seal carving as an example primarily because it is the only artistic skill I have pursued without the guidance of a teacher. Through this personal experience, I hope to reflect on the differences I have felt between learning the art form with a teacher and learning one without. Before I go into the main subject, I'd like to share an interesting side story. Steel carving is relatively easy to get started with, as the Chinese saying about it goes, a minor skill of carving insects, unworthy of a strong man. 雕虫小技，壮夫所不为. This is a dismissive saying, suggesting that certain refined skills such as intricate carving may be clever, but are ultimately trivial, and therefore unworthy of someone with great ambition or lofty purpose. In fact, Master Wang Zhuangwei was so moved by this sentiment that he changed his given name from Yuan Li to Zhuang Wei as a way to affirm that Chinese seal carving is indeed a noble art worthy of lifelong dedication. Now, let me highlight a few positive aspects of my self-learning experience. First, freedom to explore, unbound by tradition. Being self-taught allowed me to experiment freely, trying out different scripts, layouts, and composition styles. Although Master Zhang Zhaoshen initially learned seal carving from his family, he was largely self-taught in his later years. As a result, his style departed from traditional schools and developed a distinctive character of its own. The second point of the strength of self-learning, hands-on experience and intuitive learning. Over the past 4 years, I have carved dozens of seals by hand. Every failure, every revision has been a direct and invaluable learning experience. This kind of trial and error builds a kind of sensitivity and instinct that no textbook can teach. It is connected with the sense of touch and intuitive path to knowledge. But what all that said, I also want to share some honest reflections about the limits of self-learning. First, technical bottlenecks. I often find myself asking, how can I carve finer lines? How can I compose more harmonious? How do I preserve the spirit of the characters while sharpening the details? Without guidance, these questions linger. Trial and error alone can be discouraging and even drain one's passion. Right, okay, so the second point, lack of feedback and evaluation. Without a mentor, it's hard to know if I'm truly improving. I might be repeating the same mistakes over and over without realizing it. And the third point, time becomes more precious with age. Since I started seal carving in my 50s, I feel especially aware of how precious time is. A capable teacher could save me years of missteps, helping me focus, prioritize, and grow more efficiently. This brings me to the value of mentorship. Interestingly, although Zhang Zhaoshen was self-taught in seal carving throughout most of his life, he later studied painting and calligraphy under the renowned master Pu Xingyu. This mentorship transformed his artistic development. His ability to fully develop in the four arts of poetry, calligraphy, painting, and seal carving was not only the result of self-study, but also thanks to the guidance of a teacher with profound cultural depth. A good teacher offers far more than just technique. They can open your eyes, sharpen your aesthetic sensibility, and share insights shaped by decades of experience, things that self-learning may never fully provide. My Guqin and calligraphy teacher, Master Yuan Zhongping, once shared a meaningful framework for understanding the deeper aim for learning traditional Chinese arts. He described it as a striving for excellence on 3 levels. First, artistic level, 艺术层次, mastery of technique such as pitch and fingering in music, brushwork in painting and calligraphy, structure and carving technique. Second, aesthetic savoring level, 品味层次, the cultivation of aesthetic sensibility, understanding styles, history, and the spirit of tradition. And the third one is spiritual level, 精神层次, the inner cultivation, embodying the Tao, cultivating sincerity, stillness, and depth, and to be more connected with nature, to befriend it, and to dwell in its rhythm. Advancing through these 3 levels is difficult through self-study alone, especially at aesthetic savoring and spiritual levels. It's easy to fall into superficial imitation or to develop a personal style that lacks connection to traditional lineage. That said, if one's goal is simply to pursue a personal style, that is certainly a valid path. A good teacher, however, can guide a student toward discovering and refining their own unique voice and help them cross into deeper artistic and spiritual territory. In conclusion, over these 4 years, my self-taught journey in seal carving has brought me valuable experience and personal growth, but more and more I feel the need to break through, not just in terms of technique, but toward deeper artistry. I often ask myself, is what I'm making truly art in the fullest sense? A wise teacher could help me refine not only my skills, but also my perspective. So I believe the best path is this. First, to build passion and intuition through self-learning, then to deepen that to deepen that foundation through the insight and guidance of a mentor. With both, we advance with confidence and reach greater distance. Whether in Guqin, seal carving, or any traditional Chinese art, learning is not merely a technical endeavor. It is a journey of aesthetic sensibility, spirit, and self-cultivation. And along that journey, to have a good teacher by your side, someone who can point the way and lift your gaze, is one of the greatest blessings of all. Thank you very much. That's my talk for today. I'd be happy to answer any question.
So I guess I'll start off with comments. One thing I'm going to be talking about as well, time is precious. And I think that this is one thing that will only become more relevant as we progress through the ages. In this day and age where time is money and time is productivity, we're talking about how do we learn in a way that would bring us to the level of competency, to productivity. So sooner the better, right? And it frustrates people much more easily. People have less patience for trying to overcoming challenges. And I think that you have presented a nice balance between having to have that challenge of discovery, which is essential for building the character in order to have that aesthetic, that sense of art to be an accumulated thing for the artist, but at the same time, to do so without breaking the person. I think your observation of self-study first, finding a master later is the answer that our generation is finding more and more too. Marilyn?
Yes, I have to praise Peo because her analysis is sharp, just 正好. It's really excellent. And because I know both gentlemen, I knew both gentlemen, Zhang Zhaoshen and Wang Zhuangwei, mainly from the standpoint of being married to someone who had them as teachers. But I was in the same room with Zhang Zhaoshen for 3 years, looking at paintings, and he tutored me in Zhuangzi. So we connected on several levels. I would miss level 1, no technical expertise, but I became aware of their level, what Zhongping calls the second and third levels. I suppose one can try to mix the levels and try to always achieve technical mastery. But I think your analysis is so helpful, and thank you.
Thank you.
And to use the analogy of seal carving is really marvelous because, as you say, you thought you started from scratch, but you still practice calligraphy. 你还练书法，
That's right.
很重要.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Marilyn.
Hi, this is I'm Danny. Thank you for the great talk. I've been really looking forward to this talk after I saw the topics, because I also started out self-taught, and then I met up from Alan's recommendation. I met up with Liu Peiyuan, who's happened to, it was his birthday yesterday, so I called him to say, you know, happy birthday. But I had a really self-taught journey, and then met up with him, and then again, like you had mentioned, you get the words of a teacher are so helpful. But my question is also on technicality. After I learned to play for some years, I happened to be in Boston, and then I called up Yang Xinyi, and I met up with her, and you know, we kind of played together, and I just watching her play, you know, technically was so good, and I'm just thinking, and then I felt super inferior because I started out self-taught. My teacher was more into the musicality and interpretation, and not so much into the technique of, you know, here you put your finger, this is how you know. And when I met with Yang Xinyi, I could tell that was very, very technical. And can you compare and contrast? Like, does it have to be technical? I mean, I still feel inferior because of that experience.
Thank you, Danny.
Was that the hand surgeon, Danny, that spoke?
Yes.
I believe that was a question directed to you, Peo.
Yeah, my question is about, you know, people that play the Guqin. Some of them, you know, like if you study in a conservatory for professionally, you're going to have your technical expertise is going to be so much at a different level, right? And I sensed that difference when I was playing with Yang.
So what's the question? Sorry.
The question is that I guess, is it justified to feel less, you know, because, you know, I'm not a professional player.
So the difference between the feel of the modern conservatory trained performer versus the 文人琴 kind of feel, the traditional amateur, as my aesthetics professor would have put it.
I just feel like playing qin, now you have to decide if you want to be a professional player or you just want to enjoy yourself. So focus on the basic technique is the base, the foundation, so that you have to be, it doesn't matter if you want to be a professional player or just to enjoy yourself, you have to have the foundation first. And then start from that, you will gradually find how far you want to go. And you will really find the enjoyment if you, first you have the technique already, then you start to build up your aesthetic sensibility, then you will really, really find the deeper and deeper enjoyment. That's how I feel. So I don't know if I answer your question. I maybe my understanding is you are asking about if the technique is more important than others. Is that?
Well, so I have basic technique. I can play well. I can play most complicated things, but I guess it's not showy like some people. When I'm watching YouTube people play, and it's like really, it's like they can be on a stage, and I'm
Right.
maybe not like that.
Right. I for me, I think that those performers, they focus on performing this music art, so they have to be a little bit more dramatic. So, but for regular enjoyment, I think if you have certain level, that's good enough. And then you start from, build up your aesthetic sensibility from that. You can still reach a high level. Uni.
I like to give a different take on what defines being a good player to you, Danny. So, in your description, you would say that someone with a strong, showy performance style and a good posture to be good playing. What happens if I try to redefine good playing as someone who doesn't play something wrong, or if in the case they do, they're able to recover very quickly? Or they're able to improvise very well to a degree where they could go off the sheets completely and play something anew without someone even realizing it. And it may be because they have such a strong command of a wide selection of repertoire, or they have such good understanding of music theory applied to the chin so that they are able to create something on the go, or that they are able to understand music from just beyond the playing so well that they're able to portray that, oh, this person knows a lot. And that also consists of what a good chin player can be.
Peyo.
Yes, Mimei.
I think Zhongping's the 3 levels. Oh, I'm sorry if I interrupt anyone.
No.
The first level should be 技术层面, but
right.
he used 艺术. It's the second level. The first level is always the skill.
Yes, the first level is skill.
He used the word 艺术. That's what I saw.
艺术层次、品味层次。
应该是技术层次。Second 才是艺术，然后 the third is the spiritual or whatever you call it, the metaphysics level. So the first level always skill, always.
But Yi and Shu already include the skill, right? Shu means
no issue. Skill, no. It's a 3-year-old learn to play piano. He has no artistic value to his playing. It's just skill. Skill is the raw thing. You have to really work hard on it.
Without any E.
Yeah, no, skill is number one. And then you build up on that. You build your artistic sensibilities, and then you build up the spiritual level, which is the metaphysical.
I see.
So I think the first one should be 技术层次.
Technical level.
Yeah. Technical skill. Yeah.
Skill, right. Okay.
And I would like to put back the earlier question on theory. Like, if you look back at Zhongping's 3 levels of mastery and artistic skill, if you would like to share that screen,
yes.
Where would you put something like a good understanding of theory into? Because yes, it is an artistic level understanding thing. It's more of a technique thing as well. But at the same time, theory, especially when we're studying different theories from different people, from different periods, then that, of course, is an understanding of history and on an aesthetic level. It's like learning art history. The spiritual level, I won't be so forward to saying that learning theory would be more lead you to more connected on a spiritual level just yet. But how would you integrate like learning knowledge of how these systems work and how different people theorize these systems work into this whole this knowledge base? Because if you take a look at it, it's really missing the integration of theory into this. So far, it's all into the practical side of the arts. You learn how to handle the brushwork, the carving technique, the accuracy of attaining the notes.
Mm-hmm.
But what consists of or how accuracy is measured in different ways and how understanding different ways of understanding that affects your playing and training in the long run is a very subtle change. I could be studying theory for years and yet my playing doesn't really have a significant tangible change to it. Yet there is something different.
I see.
But Junie, you're talking about the musical theory. The calligraphy is something else. And painting.
Yes, it's sort of like learning a lot of art history may subtly change the way how you approach painting, for example. But studying art history does not make you immediately suddenly paint better on a technical level or something like that.
Yeah, so
That's what I'm
skill is
trying to
always
get.
number one. Skill is always number one.
Yes.
There's Wang Xiji, the famous calligrapher. He said that once. 他是本能, that means the skill is number one, it's like a general, and then 心意, 心智 is secondary. So if you don't have the skill, any spirituality you want to express, you have to express through your skill. So skill is always number one.
I'm reminded of Tonkin Woon telling me once about different styles. Old man style. Old man style was somebody who probably doesn't have much skill anymore, but they have a kind of dignity and their background and their knowledge. And so what they do is beautiful.
Yeah, but they would start with skill first, just like the 3 levels, seeing the mountain as the mountain, and second level, seeing the mountain is not the mountain. And the third level, you return to the original Tao or your original beginner's mind. But you went through all this process and before that. So the third level and seeing the mountain as the mountain again is completely different from the beginner's level. So
yes.
John's, you said the old man's aesthetic is that kind of level, the third level.
Except that he doesn't have this.
见山不是山, 最后还回到见山是山.
Except he doesn't have the skill anymore.
No, it's not that they don't have skill. It's the skills of completely kind of emerge with the whole universe. If her own beginner's mind, he doesn't care about the technique because he already mastered and he also internalized it. He has the skill, but it's already, it's not like for example, some people deliberately try to show off the skill. They don't have to. They already reach another level, completely different. They still have the skill, of course, but it's already internalized. And what do you call it? Completely digested into his whole being and with the universe. 天人合一啦，已经。
返璞归真。
对了，已经天人。
They become the mountain that the students would try to attempt and climb.
Yeah, but most people stay in the second level. So you see, I read, a lot on the Facebook. People show off everything, this and that, talk about the Tao. I mean, they're still at the second level. They haven't been to the third level. It's hard, third level. That's it.
There are some people who are deceived by skill, though, because Danny talked about watching flashy players.
Yeah, but those are the second level. That's why they're flashy.
Right.
If they reach
They are
the
still
third level,
not-
they don't have to do that at all.
Mm.
That's the second level. Most people in their whole life never reach the third level.
People may not quite understand it in as clear terms as you describe it, Mingmei.
Now, I can give a lecture on that, but of course not now.
Yes, you
And I
have
can use a lot of examples to show.
you
the
have
first
lectured
level,
many
second level, and the
times.
third level. Yeah.
I understand.
One of the things that isn't considered there yet is the person who listens has to be able to hear what the person is doing. The musician plays, but somebody needs to hear it, so they would need to have the skill to listen.
知音
And to
Julian.
recognize that level.
Knowing the sound.
That's what I wanted to add.
Okay. Great discussion. Should we move on to the
I
next?
have one question, one last question.
Okay.
Jane speaking
Jane.
here. What do you think of the intensity of mentorship in each of the different level?
Intensity of mentorship.
Intensity.
Like how close you follow exactly what your teachers say in all the levels?
Good question. I think a good teacher should allow some freedom for the student to develop their own, I don't know, the personality. But at the beginning, from my experience, from my calligraphy experience, at the beginning, you have to always follow what the teacher directs you to do. You don't want to have your own opinion because you are actually wasting your time to try different things. If you just follow what the teacher teach you, then first, right, save the time, and then you still in the right path. You won't go to the side road. And so my opinion is, yeah, first at the first maybe couple years, you exactly follow what the teacher teach you. But it depends on the teacher as well.
And coming from the teacher's perspective, sometimes you want to adjust to the nature of the student as well, especially if they've got a strong opinion. I actually let them run free in that respect. And instead, the teacher will try to give them the right challenges for them to discover and, overcome the hurdles and learn that way.
I completely agree with Peyo. In the beginning, if you're a beginner, let's say I have 40 plus years experience of teaching and more in learning, and I published 2 books, over 60 articles. Why would a beginner student learn 3 months, argue with me? I don't accept that, okay? If you don't like me, you can go and learn somewhere else. But you don't argue with some, I mean, of course you have to get a good teacher. If you get a bad teacher, and then it's luck. Sometimes you get a good teacher, is really luck. You run into a good teacher. And if you're somewhat enlightened, you can tell the teacher is not very good, and then you change to another teacher. But in the beginning stage, you don't have your own opinion. You just learn from the teacher. So I ask my students, for example, just copy me as much as you can. Wait, let's say 5 years later or 10 years later, you're so good and you read so many books, you have to read a lot, and then you experience so much in life, you have your own style, then you are free to do whatever you want. But in the beginning, you always copy your teacher. No question about that.
So in respect to the 3 levels that you pointed out, so from what I hear, what all of you are saying, that the first level is to listen 100% to what the teacher is saying, because that deals with pitch accuracy, all this very technical, raw stuff. But then as it gets to the second layer, about the artistic layer, if you can elaborate more on that, in reference to what all of you were saying just now.
Read a lot and to listen a lot and to learn a lot and practice a lot. Number one, feed yourself. You have to feed yourself. So you have a lot of things inside. Otherwise, how can you be creative? How can you be expressive in one musical phrase? How can you tell the difference? No, you feed yourself, number one. So just cultivate yourself first. That means read a lot, see a lot, travel a lot, meet a lot of people, like-minded musicians and everything. Just experience the world and practice like crazy. That's my suggestion anyway, my opinion.
Although Mingmei, when it comes to teaching, there is one thing that I'm very different from probably the way how you or Peyo teach students. Almost none of my students sound stylistically like I play. And that's because a lot of times I want them to decide for themselves how the qinpu is to be interpreted. And that means that, of course, objectively, there are some things that need to be measured. For example, accuracy of pitch and the consistency of the messaging, the musical message. However, when it comes to determining the style of the interpretation of the music, I actually leave that to my students since day one. On the other hand, I open doors for them to say, these are what other people are doing, and I present to them different styles for them to basically pick and choose for themselves, if not even cherry pick. And this, of course, is something that is very unorthodox compared to the single school style, you will have to learn this particular style in this particular way kind of teaching.
Yeah, every teacher is different. I mean, I don't have any opinion.
Maybe then I'll elaborate a bit more about what I was asking. So I'm perhaps trying to find whether there's a distinction between teaching and mentoring, and each of the three different layer. Where do you put this? Because I would guess when it gets to the third layer, there's not so much of a teaching, but a co influence between peers. But at the different layers, first and second, what do you think?
I think it's mixing. You can mix in. Like at the beginning, when you're learning the basic technique, the teacher can already give you some artistic sense about it. Why this fingering doing this way? Because it might be representing phoenix dancing or representing clouds moving, right? I think it can be mixed into the first level. The artistic sensibility can mix into the first level.
I see. So from what you're saying, is that all three layers kind of overlap concurrently. It's just it just happens as the flow.
Yes, and it has still
okay,
has
okay.
level.
That's good.
Still has
Yeah,
its
yeah.
level.
But
You start with simple thing. You
they
add
do
up
kind of
more.
sometimes occasionally.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
mean, these three levels always concurrently exist in like the universe, but when you become conscious of it and when you can manipulate something on that specific level so to produce a tangible result, that's a different thing.
I have a question for the people who teach. How much leeway do you give your students? Not so much on pitch, because the pitch and certain things are written in the manuscript, but the rhythm, how fast you move on to the next notes, some of these things are up to interpretation. And seeing John's work, it seems like there could be a lot of leeway. So at what point, or which teachers allow their students to have more freedom than to say, I have the 五线谱, and you have to follow it exactly with the rhythm written in?
My experience is depends on how well the student's music sense is. Some student, they can sense right away. They just catch up what you were playing. They can follow exactly the same. But some student, you have to describe a lot to be able to understand why you have to stop 1.5, like why this is syncopated rhythm. Some of the ideal you have to explain for the student, but some student, they just sense it right away. You don't even need to talk too much. So I think it still depends on the student, and but for student who don't understand, just follow what the teacher was playing. That's the way. And once you follow it, you master that piece, and then you get the sense of that piece. Then later on, you will be easier and easier to understand the Qing music rhythm. So first, follow the teacher.
I completely agree with Peyo. Follow the teacher first. And then Qing music anyway has a lot of freedom in it. In comparison to some Western classical music, is basically a lot of freedom. So they will explore those in the future. But in the beginning stage, always follow the teacher, especially a good teacher, of course.
I'm arriving to the same conclusion, but I would word it differently. Because I did start my Qin journey as a self-taught student, I try to tell my students to listen and imitate from several different methods or different masters kind of style. And whatever that they cannot reproduce or have difficulty reproducing, I actually encourage them to study that one further so that they're able to become flexible enough to reproduce any kind of playing when they wish. Because I want to expand their capability in being able to play anything when their brain calls for it, that their hands can work it.
So you're still asking them to listen other masters, right?
I definitely do.
Right. So they're still trying to copy.
And
or
even if they try to
imitate.
form something of their own, I then will use something more akin to essay writing skills, in that I want them to produce and compose or weave together a style that may be a hodgepodge of different masters and different styles, but they still have to make kind of a musical grammatical sense, that they need to be consistent. They need to remember what they did in the beginning of the piece, and that it mirrors in some way in logic and shape and form in the end, so that it's a consistent message throughout.
I was going
That's
to
a
ask
skill to be developed.
if you find a difference between a student who's already playing other instruments, who's capable of playing other instruments, and then they want to play the Guqin. Do you find them better or worse as students?
I don't think there's better or worse. It depends on if the student has music background, they just get into this quicker than student without. That's all.
That's what I was thinking.
Ultimately, musical skills in the sense of a musical knowledge, listening, and understanding is transferable. Therefore, in this respect, they are able to pick it up faster. But because of their variant backgrounds, they may sometimes take longer to acclimate into certain penchants, tropes, or aesthetic styles if they're not familiar with the culture or something beforehand.
I think this whole discussion is actually very interesting, and relating it to my own history and so forth. I would kind of summarize it as training the body, training the mind, and training the heart. The first step, training the body. So this actually goes back to my college years, where I was working in the psychology department, and we were creating training systems. This was at Georgia Tech. And we were training what was called perceptual automaticity. It was literally training the perceptual connections to response in the body to the point where the mind wasn't really involved. The body was simply reacting to its stimuli. In this case, we were trying to train quarterbacks in the NFL so that they could, make a judgment more quickly on who to throw the ball to. But it was the same thing in the sense that it required a lot of repetition and immediate feedback for the body to learn what to do and how to do it. And I think back to an Olympic fencing teacher that I had. Richard Andrews, I believe was his name. And he would talk about practice and how important practice was. And always the phrase was not practice makes permanent, or not practice makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. And that's where listening to a teacher very precisely early on is so important, because the teacher is going to show you the technique the correct way so that you don't develop bad habits that later on you have to unlearn, because it's very difficult for the body to unlearn something once it's learned it. But the final point of it is going to that question of these three different levels. They are always happening concurrently. There is a shift in balance in the sense that in the beginning, there's very much a heavy focus on the technique. It's on training the body, getting the hands to move the right way, stop in the right places, tying that to what you're perceiving in terms of listening to your own playing and what have you. If you never train the body, you'll never play well. You'll never be able to express what your mind and your heart want to do. You'll never do it effectively. So you need the technique. And in the very beginning, when you're learning the technique, most of your brain is very consciously trying to move your body to the right places at the right time to get the repetition that's necessary to reach a point where the body just does it on its own, and you no longer have to consciously think about it. And that allows the mind, the theory, the history, the savoring of the aesthetic to start coming in further. But at the very beginning, if you don't have the heart, if the heart isn't stimulated, you won't have the passion to carry through that training all the way through all three levels. So there always has to be a little bit of that as well. And it continues to grow. And with layer after layer, it sort of reveals to you more about what it is you're learning and about the whole the holistic view of what it is you're learning, of the art that you're learning. And that speaks, I think, very much to the heart. So I love this discussion. Thank you very much.
Could you please identify the speaker who just spoke?
So thank you for your input very much, very enlightening. And that was Mark Johnson. Thank you very much.
Mark is in Taiwan right now. So
wow.
It's his 3:47 a.m.
So
my
as
daughter's
much
sleeping
as
next to me.
the discussion is going very strong right now, I want everyone to now sort of stretch and take a break. And Ralph, if you have the first recording ready for the first performance. I believe that would be actually John playing Xian Wong Cao for us.
Okay, I'm not prepared to do that. I have to figure that out.
And I want this to be a little audio break before we continue on the discussion on how do you drive that passion. And that would be my talk. And focusing on the critical juncture of fueling that passion when it's at its greatest.
Are we taking a break now, is it?
The break in the sense of we're now listening to a performance by John.
Yeah, I'm not quite ready to do that, so you should talk a little bit more while I figure it out.
Sure. So to segue, basically, we are now moving towards the topic of how do we stoke that passion alive? And of course, passion is about learning the instrument. I find often is the greatest during the initial stages of learning. So what I like to call the first year of learning. That's also the make or break moment when people become professional players, amateur players, or they just give up on the whole pursuit in itself. And more often than not, we find that the reasons why they may fall out of interest is because of other things in life. We do live very busy lives with many trivial matters going on. And my experience is the biggest student killer tends to be midterm exams, long vacations, traveling overseas, or something big happens in the family. So, other teachers, what are your experiences about the greatest reason why students may drop off?
I could just say maybe a little bit in preparation for playing this video.
Yep.
That's on my website, and so you can hear it anytime. Not every time I go to it, but like now when I go to it in the wedding, in the wedding, I always find there's something more that I've learned, and then I want to write that down in the website. And that's why the website is so big in a way. Somebody asked me a question about something, and I think, wow, that's really interesting, and so I look it up, and because the music really, on the one hand, is the driving force. It makes me want to learn more about how it came about. And so you'll see with that video pages of commentary on who was Xian Wang and all this kind of stuff. And if you have an interest in that, then I don't see how you're going to ever stop that.
John, you are one of the most precious minds that we have in our society, in that you are an exemplar to, that scholarly pursuit. Not everyone necessarily has that questioning of why, and then have the energy to pursue into that question, so to discovering insights not just for oneself but eventually to share it with others as well. And I think we're very blessed that we are able to congregate together and form this society, the New York Chin Society, in that we have so many like-minded, curious people who are able to share their pursuits and further knowledge for all of us. But at the same time, this is not something that every Chin player out there necessarily has. Some may be just happy reading the results off of another's research, and there are others still who might not simply question and take their teacher's word for granted. However, there is a need, like any other field, that there's a need to continually expand and revise our knowledge base as well. So I'm really appreciative of that continual pursuit to find more meaning and, of course, context of whatever we may be playing or reading up.
And thanks for all that, because I'm now ready to share John's playing. So here it comes. Ready? And come on, come on.
So I like that as a beginning piece and as a continuing piece, because if I want to calm down, I just play it over and over again, occasionally singing along. It's also instructive because it's, as with the piece that people today play, they called Xianwong, but it's the old name is Yin. It gets you familiarized with the importance of the ninth and 10th way. And the other thing, which probably people don't notice, is I changed one note in, I think it's the first section. And that means in the first half of the piece, it's consistently has the third string as do, and the second half it consistently has the first string as do, or it's the other way around. I can't remember. So that's also introducing the significance of the first and third strings as do in most of the pieces that we play.
Thank you, John. And while you were playing that, I noticed I was just thinking back to the translation work I'm doing right now for Yamagata Daini's Kingaku Haki. And he noted several things, which I noticed that you may be inadvertently doing. John, did you notice that when you were singing, when you're lower range, that it can be also interpreted as like a fifth lower than it actually is? So when you were singing in the lower pitch, Xian Wong, over there, what my mind is actually interpreting is that you are singing not in the exact same pitch as what you're playing, but rather a fifth lower. And in a sense, that way is actually in line with what the ancients consider as the proper way of singing, in that they always sing not in the same keys, but running in parallel fifths.
I don't think I'd be interested to know where you see a parallel fifth, because as far as I know, everything was either octave or unison. I have to shift octaves, but not fifths. There is, speaking of Japan, now I do have one recording on there, which I think should be fairly easy to find, of another version of, actually, it's of Cao Manyin, the related piece, which is recorded with a Japanese garden. My friend Lao Xinghan and his daughters were in Japan and sent me a video of, I can't remember the name of the garden, but it's a very famous Japanese stone garden. And I put this piece as a soundtrack in that, and it really works very well.
Mm-hmm.
What part of your website is that? Could you put the reference in the chat?
Yeah, I'll look that up.
I thought you were singing in unison, not in fifths. And
right. Yeah.
He is technically. He is.
It is very soothing.
Well, what do you mean by not technically? I mean,
no, he is technically. You are technically. But it's just that when I was listening to before you switched to the medium high or even falsetto range, that you were singing maybe it's the resonance in your voice, but I could hear probably it could go down a fifth. So instead of hearing perfect octaves or perfect unison, I heard it as a fifth, and in that way, it sounds in line with what the ancients call the proper way of singing.
What is that in Chinese, Junie? The ancient quote.
That they were singing in Yi Jun, or different key.
But what about the fifth?
歌奏一云. So singing and performance are in different keys. And when they're saying different keys, they mean fifths.
I don't notice that I do that, and I don't remember hearing that in anybody else.
It's a Japanese source, that's why.
I think what I do when I'm singing is I'm very often not singing the note at the same time I'm playing the note, because I think of the music as being heterophonic, not simply playing in unison.
Right. And the second note I would like to make, nowadays, John, your version of Xian Wong Cao is now the first piece in my book. In that this is the piece where we teach so many different things, from basic left-hand technique, basic right-hand technique, understanding that in all Guqin melodies is comprised of this open sound and matching pitch, but with a different timbre on a different string, but it's technically considered the same sound. So a lot of these concepts are taught with basic repertoire like Xian Wong Cao, Liang Xiaoyin, and so forth. However, we see modern textbooks are moving more away from teaching basic concepts using pieces like these and more onto divested technical exercises on their own. And that's one thing I would like to bring to discussion next.
I as I said, when I review these pieces, often I'll change something on the website. And what I changed here, I think, is I put more prominence into something that was buried down there, which has to do with the origin of that version of Xian Wong Cao, which I don't know who else plays that. That was the people in Taiwan played that, and
yes,
I
Tong
was told,
teaches a completed version of this.
Tong Kin-Won told me that Sun Yu-Chin probably learned it from Wu Zonghan, who was a Mayan player, and he thought it was Mayan, but I don't see that anywhere in the Mayan literature, if anybody knows about that.
And the Xian Wong Cao today played on the mainland is known as Cao Man Yin in the past.
What about the Mayan people on the mainland?
See, that's the funny thing. The power of, standardization since 2003 has made whatever they're playing that's called Xian Wong Cao on the mainland now the default, and everyone just thinks and is taught to think that way. The original piece that we're now playing doesn't really exist to them anymore. It's disappeared. Save for us overseas who are keeping this purportedly Mayan or now I'll consider a Taiwanese kind of preservation. It's largely gone from mainland China.
I'll have to remember.
History's
yeah,
erased.
I'll have to. I want to do some search on that because there must be some information about the source of that piece.
I have a question for John. John, I have a question.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that I don't quite understand. You said that is heterophony?
Heterophony, yeah.
You mean that you're singing and you're playing, or you mean several chin players play together?
No. When I sing and play, sometimes when I'm singing and playing, it's pretty much in unison. Other times I'll hit the note first and then I'll sing the note, or the other way around. So that it's not quite the same. And
yeah.
That's my understanding of Chinese traditional music is more like that, not unison. The other is the chin is so delicate that if you sing right on top of it, all you're doing is hiding it. So it's interesting to not be quite together.
I got it. Thank you.
So, John, I think you might be interested in the translation of what I'm working on right now, as it talks about in the ancient past how people are supposed to sing in matching with playing.
Mm-hmm.
But even that text says clearly it's not practiced today. And that was Edo, Japan.
That's a Japanese text?
It's written in classical Chinese.
But it's a Japanese text.
Written by a Japanese person, but it's
yeah. But
it's written in classical Chinese.
What I know about that sort of is from what Yang Yuanzhang's book and his dissertation, I guess, about that, where there was who was it? A lot of some of the Japanese said that they were preserving the Chinese. They were doing things the way the Chinese used to do it, but Chinese don't do anymore.
Or I'll add to that, the Japanese claim that it's the way the Chinese used to do it, and they preserved it.
That's what I said. I thought that's what I said.
Truth is a little more complicated than that, but there are some things that they did invent for themselves.
Are you still talking about the heterophony thing? Yeah.
Yes. Heterophony is one of those, or to what degree the heterophony is being played. Is it like unison, fifths, or something different? That's the kind of thing that is different over the ages in China and then different in Japan. And Japan makes a claim that China used to do this. But if you look back at Chinese sources, they'll go like, we didn't do that.
How would that Japanese text that you're talking about express the word heterophony? or indicate to people it was not singing and playing at something at the same time?
The exact wording they used, what he used was 各奏一君 or 一允之法. So singing and performing in alternate or different keys.
As far
What?
as I know,
That's different.
heterophony is unintentional. It's not intentional using in this key, I sing in that key. It's especially during Buddhist chantings, because the monks, they never had any formal musical trainings, but they are oral transmissions,
So melodically, they're following the same contour, the same pattern.
They all
but,
sing a little bit different, so it becomes heterophonic. It's unintentional.
So they're making that unintentional thing intentional
can
in
be.
this text. It's being prescribed as doctrine.
But you're saying the text is talking not about keeping the notes separate, instrument and the singing separate. You're talking about doing a different pitch, and that's a completely different subject.
Yes.
It is different. It's not heterophony anymore. There's something else.
Right. So in a sense, yeah, it's not like they're playing in two different melodies or, as you said, heterophony, but that they're playing in parallels.
No, but heterophony is not like they play in different melodies. That's polyphony. So they try to sing in the same melody in unison, but they can't, because everyone's training is different. So they just kind of like floating around that main melody, but someone's like a little bit off here, that person is a little off there, and they become heterophony.
And it does happen. You can see that in like Japanese gagaku, and that's what it's trying to describe.
That's an interesting description of heterophony. You're saying it's people who can't play together because they don't have the skill. That's not my understanding of that heterophony. That's like I like to say, when I'm getting it right, I'm recreating old music, and when I'm getting it wrong, I'm being creative.
Yeah, but it's a different situation. You go to a temple that 300 monks singing together, you got to have heterophony. They can't sing exactly the same. That's what I mean. It's not they are bad at music.
Okay, right.
It's not like that at all. Yeah.
But yeah, the source is trying to basically say that it's considered the right way or elegant to have the voice and the playing to be spaced a fifth apart in pitch. So whereas this thing is not explicitly said, or we try to sing in unison in Chinese practice, especially today, that's not what the Japanese claimed that the Chinese used to do. But they have no way to really prove it anymore, because even in Japanese gagaku traditions, they no longer sing. So they can't really prove it because there's no living examples. So yes, I'll be happy to talk more about this when my book is released in that respect. And John, I'll be more than happy to show you a working draft of this after this meeting. Okay. So thank you very much, John, for your performance. And since this is Xian Wong's Hall, the piece that many of us start learning the Guqin by playing this piece, we'll be moving on to my talk regarding the beginning challenges in the first year of learning. And I'm your host, Uni Young. So in the beginning, I would like to make some observations about how people or how students pick up the instrument. So students definitely learn at different rates and learn at different speeds. But it's also possible from this difference from person to person that they're able to see what kind of degree of dedication and how fast they're able to absorb the material. Therefore, in a way, able to estimate their total learning potential, how far they can go from just the first 3 months of their learning. How advanced a student can go, I find, often can be seen, or how much they will remember for life, even without a long time of practice. You can get from the first 2 to 4 years of study. So whatever you teach them in the first 2 to 4 years, I would even say 3 years, is what will stick with them for the rest of their lives, and that motivation during this period of time is determined by how far one expects the goal or the top would be. So it would be best for them that they're able to see how far, or that they're able to reach, or how far that the real top of the field would be, if they have a good impression of it within the first few years, and they strive to achieve that as far as they can during this time. Now, the technical limits of what a Qin player could achieve is not predetermined during this period, or that you can call that natural talent if you want, but that this crucial early period is the outlook of capability of a person weighed against their energy or their interest and time, I find. And in this formula, if you will, the interest factor here is the thing that is variable and can be humanly influenced or controlled. And my hypothesis, or what I'm trying to expound on, is by expanding the scope of field for the students, it offers more choices for them to pursue in the field of Qin studies or Qinology, what direction they can go, and therefore, if I can spark their interest, fuel and stoke their passion, that potentially they would be able to pursue in this active learning and achieve a higher level altogether with a general greater rate of success. So my argument in all of this, which I want to open up for teachers and students alike to their experience of learning, is that their first year of education is crucial into making or breaking the student into success or even greater success. So whereas Western university education's first year courses tend to be survey courses that deliver syllabi to describing what the entire field is about. Oftentimes when we're teaching the Guqin, we're talking about teaching an instrument. We're teaching it how to play. Yes, but we're also imparting on them parts of tradition, history, and its knowledge, what are its challenges. So with a survey course, we should also cover things like history, the most current researches in the field, and a sample of the latest ideas, as well as to, of course, streamlined genealogy of the whole field itself. Currently, textbooks do not really provide this kind of information, especially in China. The newer textbooks increasingly focus towards technical exercises of the detached kind, and focus on this early technique development based on technique-focused exercises. So if you listen back to the talk in 2018 in London, you will see my colleague Zheng He, or the son of Zheng Chengwei, arguing that in order for more students being able to pick up the Guqin, they need to develop easier ways for people to pick up on the techniques of the Guqin, and therefore develop more easy to digest short exercises. But in sacrifice of what? My observation is that they're sacrificing, or there's little to no coverage of theory, written components, like how do you dapu or do a musical analysis of Guqin stuff? How do you transmit a piece of popular music onto the Guqin? Transcription, history, none of that's really covered. They have to learn from the get-go, either from themselves, just observing. There's no formalized curriculum for that. Except for, of course, my attempt of it in my book. And if you look at preaching and preaching manuscripts, the old textbooks, that's what they're written for, actually. They spend, outside of the actual music scores themselves, the bulk of the textual portions of it is about history, is about the music theory, is about what to play or not to play, how to decorate your chin room, all this kind of extra data on this is about the whole practice of the chin from the knowledge and from the outside the playing part, and those are all skipped over today. And even with the mass digitization of these source texts, making it easier for us to access today, and of course, translations, research and discovery of these texts as to making it meaningful to our daily practice today is minimally done and a disappearing art altogether. And I think that this is something that needs to be brought back into prominence as an introductory first year education for the modern Chin students. So to influence our future generation of Chin players as more rounded players and holders of knowledge for this tradition. And that's where I'm going to open the floor and have people just talk about these points. And if you need the slides, I can put them back up upon request.
I will say one response to this is that when I was first getting involved with Guqin, there was a very special aspect of its tie to history, to this notion of I'm learning songs that people were playing 1,000 years ago, and that I'm sort of connecting into this continuity of humanity that help drive the passion to actually do the practicing that I need to do on a daily basis and so forth and learn the technique. And that is something that I find really just missing from the exercise approach to music. That if you're just learning the technique without any of the rest of it, it's so disassociated with the passion that actually drives people to do the practice. It would otherwise take a student with a great deal of discipline to sit down and just do the exercises all the time.
And sorry, I just want to catch again. Who was speaking just then?
Oh, it's Mark, sorry.
Oh, hi, Mark. Yes, thank you. So I take it that you started with one of those Chinese textbooks with those basic technique exercise things, just going forwards and backwards kind of thing?
Well, fortunately, in my case, about 2 weeks into my self-learning, I was able to get connected with Master Pei Yuan and started learning from him. And so that quickly moved from learning individual pieces, actually from your book. I think was probably some of the first pieces I started to learn. Immediately went into learning complete songs. And although we didn't spend a lot of time talking about where the songs were coming from, what their history, what their origination was, there was already a connection because of the music itself. And I was learning kind of on my own about the history of these songs. That's sort of what drove the connection for me to put in the time and effort into the practice. That and knowing that at the end of the week I needed to go to my lesson and show what I'd learned.
So the lore kept your fire going.
Yeah, very much so.
Anyone else want to share their early learning experiences? Okay, Charles, you want me to just read it out loud for you? So Charles, my Siheng, just said, one thing I can think of is hardly taught is how to mount strings on the chin. It needs as hands-on experience as does the music teaching, but people are meant to work it out on their own. from short descriptions and a few diagrams in books or short videos, which are inadequate. So you get students who have to wait to find a chin player who knows how to restring if a chin breaks for months on end if there is no one close by. Charles, I don't know how to break it to you, but of course I have a chin string repair section in my book, and of course it's always inadequate. And I always encourage my students to either when their string breaks or before their first big exam, so roughly around level 4 on the Central Conservatory exam level, or before they finish list B in my textbook, that they need to learn how to pull strings. And a lot of my students try to find ways to run away from the whole exercise because they don't want to do the heavy work, the sweaty heavy work. So it's almost hilarious if it wasn't for the fact that I have to chase them down to do your homework.
Well, it does help to have one demonstration by a very skillful person, because it's how you apply the strength at the right moment, and having the towel or whatever to protect your hands. I mean, all these small things are just little tips from players. But if you're isolated and there's no one to do it, one learns. And also tying the bow. Some people can do it beautifully, like fishing flies. But it's true. It's all in the process of learning, and it should be as early as possible.
That's why I always try to dedicate 1 or 2 lessons just for these topics, from tying strings to, pulling the strings to theory. So there definitely is a need for that, but students also need to sometimes, take it in stride and not run away from these special lessons when they need to.
That was critical for me too. I tried to learn on my own. I bought tapes and things like that, but I never could figure out how to tune the thing. And my first actual lesson,
Who's speaking?
That's Ralph. But my teacher wanted to teach me all sorts of hand gestures, but really all I wanted to know is how did she tune her Guqin. It wasn't Peyo, it was a teacher I took one lesson with. Anyway, I did find out, although she cheated and used all sorts of mechanical devices. Later I learned a better way. Anyway, now I'll be quiet.
Well, when we're talking about tuning, there's a whole rabbit hole to go down into. In that, of course, you know that there's the harmonic way of tuning and there's the pressed way of tuning. And in the pressed notes kind of tuning, there's a lot of theory work that can be explained in the process as well. Just wondering if you ever had this conversation with your teacher regarding how you cannot use the pressed first string on 10th to match it exactly as the third string, open third string. Marilyn, ZCW is Zheng Chengwei.
Oh, thank you. But
our teacher.
But he still had a human demonstration, or was it online? I'm sorry, I didn't read.
Yes, definitely. I mean, ultimately, there is a practical component that needs to be shown in person. So there's only so much with a textbook you can do. So first of all my students, of course, need to have my textbook. But when it comes to the part that they have to learn it, they can only read through it, and then they have to see me do it, and then I'll take them by hand. And this is how much energy you need to use. And I would take them by the hand and yank their arms with me on the string. They need to actually feel for themselves exactly how much strength is involved in all of this, and how to keep the strength in the right way as they throw off the tangent and tighten the strings. All these things are indeed very tactile experiences.
Yes. I think once they've done the 7th string at least 3 times, they become one learns. It takes.
If you really want to make them have a hard time, you make them practice with the first string.
Well, but it's the first, what am I talking about? 7th, first string that.
The thickest one.
Yeah, no, I think the thinnest one, but that one breaks most often. It's not the seventh. Sorry, I'm getting the strings. Huli hutu. Excuse me. The lowest string is the seventh. Am I right?
Yes.
That's hardly ever breaks. It's the first string. Sorry.
You teach different things with different strings. You
Well,
use the first string to show how much energy it takes at most to tune the strings. You teach using the seventh string to teach them how to be careful with these strings. And you teach them with the fourth or fifth string in order to show how sometimes you can be careless, because that's actually the first most likely string to break. It's the fourth, I tell you.
oh, interesting.
This is
Because it's the
Mark.
one that
Also,
nobody really thinks too much about, and because it's also at the apex of the instrument, it's also the part where each right hand movement actually has the most strength when it hits. So the
This is
fly
one
knot
area-
tends to be the most likely to come off at that one.
This is one area where I wished I had started with silk strings rather than metal strings, because silk strings are far more easier to tune or to restring by hand, I think,
Yes,
than
I was
trying to
going.
do it with metal.
Is that Mark?
And
Yeah, I agree.
yes, it is.
It is, but of course, silk strings are also more finicky to maintain during performance and after.
Very true. But it also
So
gives you more opportunity to restring and get practice.
I think a lot of people like the idea of modern convenience. So we all have Wu Wenguang to thank you for developing the metal nylon strings.
Do those still break? I would think that they'd be much stronger. With
Nothing lasts forever, Marilyn.
well,
Yeah,
And when metal nylon breaks, it breaks very cleanly until the cord wrapping starts coming off.
yeah, it can ruin the
And
string very
when you try to
quickly.
retie the knot, it pricks you in the finger by a lot more, so it hurts a lot more.
Can Danny show us what is the stringing at?
What's a stringing aid, Danny? I load my strings onto it and then it takes tension off when I wind it around the feet, he says.
I always recommend using a short length of dowel, about maybe a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, round off the end of it, and wrap the string around that, the opposite direction. And another thing that wasn't mentioned, I think, was that how important it is to ease the tension. As you pull, you need to reach around and ease the tension off of the string so you're not just pulling it over the edge of the dragon's gums. Does that make sense?
yes.
Very important to ease that tension as you pull.
I try not to think of it as easing the tension, but a way to keeping just enough energy to keep its tautness. So,
Yeah.
and not adding any extra pressure to it, especially when you start winding. Otherwise, they'll snap in the middle.
Yeah. Also, one is sitting on a chair and the chin is upright. I mean, that position is found in the handbooks, so that goes without saying. Am I correct? We are talking about.
You can put
Yes.
it on the chair or on the floor. I tried both way.
On
Both
the
way
drawer.
works.
What?
Floor, on the floor. Put a pillow on the floor and put the chin down on the floor.
Yeah, I find it a lot easier to do it sitting now. I started out standing and putting it on a chair, but that just turned out to be wrong.
I still need
It's
to
on the
put my
floor.
entire body's strength on it.
About the type, excuse me. First, Marilyn, I put the reference about that Japanese thing. But
Please focus on Danny, Ralph. He's
the
got the string aid.
in terms of tightness of string and metal strings and so forth, I was recently reflecting on Chinja Jinye. And what does that mean?
敬业.
So it goes
Forbidden.
on the it goes in the hole in the bottom and it clamps the string. This ratchets it, taking tension off, and then I can wind it around the feet. so I don't have to kill myself pulling
complicated.
on it.
I have never seen that contraption ever before.
Yeah, can you imagine how it works? It goes on the bottom of the instrument, and the string then goes into this and clamps. And this actually does the pulling for you. So then it tightens the string, and I usually tighten it like a note, one pitch higher than I want it, and then I wrap it around the feet, and then I let go. And it's been a life changer for me.
So your strings break that often. You must practice a lot.
Well, I mean, they like my son just broke one of my strings. My little kid, my 2-year-old.
Yeah, I wouldn't use
And I
that.
just
I wouldn't
decided to
use
change
that
my
with
whole
silk
set. So
strings
here's my
either.
whole set. I'm gonna like change them, and so that's what I use. I kind of like it.
Those look like nylon. Yes.
These are silk from a long time ago that my dad got me, and I can't remember the brand.
They could be dry too.
That might be. I told my wife they need to be changed anyways because they're so old. They're probably like 15 years old.
It looks really brittle.
Yeah.
I use silk strings on. Whose device was that? I got one like 10 years ago by, I forget the name of the guy. I think he did a presentation at the Chin Society.
Really?
Yeah. And I tried silk strings on it. It was terrible. They just broke them. Not from making them too tight, but simply the way they wrapped them.
Yeah, this is just a little clamp that the strings go through, and it clamps to it without winding it on there. And then this screw tab just advances the string. So this is what it's called.
Well, the thing is, using that kind of device, you can't feel the tension in your body and in your hands. Whereas if you are just doing it manually, you can really feel the tension. And so the string is less traumatized, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to it when I pluck it, and I listen to the tension as I tighten it.
Is this substituting for tuned pegs or
No. It's substituting from me using a dowel to pull the strings tight.
I can't imagine how that connects to the chin.
So remember the old tuning block that uses zither pins? That
I'll bring my
this
chin
replaces
down.
that, but it's only used during the stringing process. I take that this thing can be removed afterwards.
Yeah, it goes right here.
Yes. And it is only applied when you're stringing
And
the
then
instrument.
you do this, and then this advances, and then you wrap the string around the legs, and then you remove it.
Oh, I see. So it holds the tension while
It
you're
holds the
wrapping.
tension while, yeah, see, like this.
So while you're stringing and pulling, it just holds it together.
Yeah, so it's not, I don't have to like kill myself pulling on the dowel.
Jenny, do we move on? Because
yes, so this is the beauty of technology and innovation. The fact that, we think about having a problem and then we try to create new solutions. I love this because technology is, a perfect example that we're obviously thinking about a problem and we're trying to solve it in new ways. But moving on, I think we now have a second performance. And thank you for coming, Anna Maria, to our talk. And we hope to actually hear you say something next time as well. So now we're moving on to Lawrence, I believe, where we have an original composition by you, the Xun and the Qin.
And I will share the video that he sent me yesterday.
Yes, please.
Just a second.
Interesting. The Xun,
Any explanations or something to add on to the presentation, Lawrence?
the Xun is a very unique sound.
Yes, thank you. Those are my grandchildren, or a couple of them out of 9. And it's all an improvisation. And what I especially like about the shun is different from well, anyway, it has a lot of harmonics that come through. I do enjoy that. Ocarinas have a clearer sound, but the shun has that nice earthy sound with a lot of harmonics. That's what I like about it.
The fact that you were repeating a lot on the open 6th and 7th strings on the chin means that you have really grasped onto the idea that it's the earthy sound that you want to resonate with.
It's also point out that the tuning on the chin was done after I made the shun, because I can't tune the shun nearly as easily as I can the chin.
Interesting. Was there any special tuning that you noted for this particular piece?
Wish I could remember exactly what it was. I've done this about a year ago, so I haven't really looked at that. I just pulled it up yesterday and went, oh, that would be interesting to share.
Yeah, but I definitely hear a sense of Chu Shang in there. So you might want to revisit maybe something like a Slacken 6 or a Titan 5.
Certainly will, yes. I play with my tunings all the time, back and forth.
Are any of your grandchildren picking up musical instruments or Asian?
No, not really.
Not yet.
Not really, not yet.
That's too bad. Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a very different idea about the world than I do. They're living in a different time.
But they are listening to live music of a different sort. I think it's important. Danny's daughter is studying the violin, and yes, well, we could ask Andre about his son. Or
my oldest granddaughter listens to Slipknot. That she went to. It's a pretty heavy duty kind of music, and she says, "Oh, that's nice, Grandpa, but let's listen to what I want to listen to."
Heavy industrial stuff?
Very much so. And I don't know if you've seen pictures of her. She's very sweet, but when she's listening to the music that she wants, it's heavy industrial stuff. Very different mindset.
You know it's good, because soon enough she'll turn the other extreme and head this way.
Very possibly. There's no telling what will happen. I just hope I'm here when she does.
Can we move on?
All right, so that was
I
our
don't think it's very
second.
long, unless I cut it. Yeah.
Yes, so this is our second musical interlude. Thank you very much for Lawrence and the original piece of the Xun and Qin. So now we're moving on to Ming Mei, and she'll be continuing on with the idea of discussing on learning patterns. So Ming Mei,
Thank you very
the
much.
floor is yours.
Give me a minute. I don't wait.
Screen sharing?
No. I don't know. I clicked the one that I want to. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. Let me just share screen.
Nini, do you need that I share your video right now, or?
No, I want to talk first because my article is quite long. Unless I cut it more, I already cut out a lot.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how to go back. I don't know how to go back on to the to the
Maybe
Zoom.
next time we can have a dedicated person to present and flip pages.
Wait, I don't know how to go back to the Zoom now. Because I'm just not good at the computer. Let me see.
See a little Zoom symbol on the bottom of your screen.
No, looks like I quit. Oh, but you guys can hear me.
No, you're still here. You're still here.
You're still very much here. So if you feel like you want to just talk and read your scripts, that's fine.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I do share screen. Let me see. I hope they share the right screen. Oh, okay, okay. Wait a minute. Let me find the right screen. Okay, this is the New York Teen Society. Okay.
Remember to share sound. Share sound if it has sound.
Is it sharing now?
Yes, we can see your document very clearly.
Okay, okay. The article is very long, okay? I think it's at least half an hour, so bear with me. I mean, it's just I already cut out a lot. I don't have time to cut out more. So the title of my talk is From Private Tune Studio to Concert Stage. I'm talking about the literary versus the conservatory way of teaching the tune, but we use the word transmission because in old China, we don't use the word teaching. 就是有传统到现在情绪的音乐厅文人情跟学院情的一个传授 how they pass along the chin knowledge. Okay, so because of time, I might skip some that I don't read because it's just a very long article, half an hour. Okay. You can all see my cursor, right? So when I read, I move my cursor, if you all can see it, okay?
Yes.
So transmission of the qin, that means teaching, was mentioned as early as in the Western Han Dynasty. In this Liu Xiang, his book talks on the qin. He listed talent to teach, 善传授, as one of the 7 important requirements of qin playing. That means if you're a very good qin player, you have the responsibility to teach. Doesn't mean that you're a good teacher, needless to say. Traditional qin handbooks also listed not willing to teach, 不依法度教人, as one of the 9 inauspicious things. It's bad if you don't want to teach. Why? Because without teaching, without transmission, any form of art will decline, right? Because we don't have the second generation or the third generation. It will just decline and disappear. That happened a lot in Chinese history. It is the role of teachers to preserve traditions. Okay, I'm going to talk about 3 different kinds of qin musicians, basically, and how they teach. Today, there are 3 modes of qin transmission with somewhat different backgrounds, but of course, they overlap. There's 3 kinds of qin players. One is the literati. We call them amateur qin musicians. The second is the conservative trained. They are the professional qin musicians. And the third one is the internet qin musician, the internet celebrities, but they can overlap. Okay, I mean the identity can overlap. The major development in qin transmission occurred in 1918. That as a big difference in qin transmission, because starting from 1918, these 2 gentlemen, Yang Shibai and Huang Lu, they were hired to teach at the Music Study Institute of Beijing University. And this began the new era of qin entering institutes of higher education. So nowadays we have qin conservatories. They all started in 1918 when qin first entered into a professional institute. But of course, the Yang Zibai and Wang Lu, they're both still literary players because there's no conservatory trained qin musicians at all before 1918. No professional qin players before that. So we all learn the qin by literary. So nowadays we have a literary qin player. And one very special identity of literary qin players, as you are expected, but not necessarily so. Only in theory, you're expected to master at least 1 or 2 of the 4 arts, which is 琴棋书画, qin calligraphy, painting, and mostly poetry rather than chess. And this is why the qin is also referred to as qin dao, okay, the way of the qin, because it is a philosophy, a way of life, a spiritual pursuit. So it's different goals of playing the qin. very different than from the professional conservatory people. So no matter how excellent the skills, literary Qin players are labeled amateur, 业余的琴家, because we are not the professionals, okay? But actually, in the past, they enjoyed a higher status in traditional Chinese culture than the so-called professional court Qin musician, which is equivalent to nowadays the like conservatory trained Qin musicians. Because the court musicians is considered uncultured craftsmen, 匠人, who play to show off the skill, to make profit, and entertain. Okay, but for the literary Qin players, we play for self-cultivation, social transformation, moral ratification. So it's a higher level. So from technique to artistic charm, still the literary player. The musicianship of the literary was quite varied, meaning that literary, because they're not conservatory people, some are very, very good players. For example, my teacher, or Yao Gongbai in Hong Kong now, I mean, from Shanghai, his father, the excellent players to mediocre players, and also, of course, very bad players. But in conservatory, it's very, very rare to see really bad players, because you would not be admitted, to the conservatory at all if you're bad players. So, but even the bad players can be teachers, right? So it's no control of the transmission, the quality of the transmissions. Okay. But on the contrary, most conservatory trained Qin musicians are good or excellent players. The skillful literary could be excellent players because they have a holistic approach. They are well versed in philosophy. They have good technical skills. The good teachers. And they understand the metaphysics of the Qin Dao. They're well versed in painting, calligraphy, poetry. Okay, so they could inspire the students with their knowledge, the literary players, the cultivation, the refined demeanor, inner artistic quality, elegant temperament. So this is a picture of my teacher. And she is, to me, the epitome of literary Qin players. She's a very elegant lady, plays extremely well. And she also well-versed in calligraphy and also in poetry. So this is my teacher. So I will quote Bell Yung description of my Qin teacher. Few people possess her innate talent and literary and artistic sensibility, a gentle personality, graceful demeanor, and her understated manner altogether form a universe that is a jolting contrast to the fast-paced, materialistic, and commercialized society to be found in the outside world. Her poetry, calligraphy, and the Qin music are an outward expression of that universe. She awes the younger generation and brings them a glimpse of a world that they never had the opportunity to experience. Of course, it's a very high praise of my Qin teacher, and of course, I agree. Okay, so the literary's traditional teaching methods, and what are the goals of teaching the Qin? For clarity, I divide the Qin transmission into different categories, but sometimes they're often combined, okay? Number one is oral and temperature transmission. In Chinese, it's 口传普授. You talk, of course, you have to talk to the student how, so that they understand what fingering to use, the rhythm, all this. So, but at the same time, you give the students the temperature to learn from the temperature. But some very exceptional few teachers, they give the student the temperature to learn first. They don't teach anything. So Bell Yung quote an example is the famous player Xu Yuanbai, how he taught another famous player, Yao Benyan, only by reading the temperature first. They don't talk at all. Just give you a temperature, you're going to read and experience everything on your own, explore on your own. So Bell Yung said, quote, Yao Benyan said that his teacher taught by a rather unusual method. While most people learn to play Guqin by listening to and imitating playing of the teacher, he was asked to first read the notation on his own, experiment with various interpretations of the rhythm, and then play for his teacher before listening to his teacher play. By repeating this process, he would gradually learn a piece. So some of you here might, try this method of teaching. I don't know how well it works. Okay, but for me personally, let's say after I teach the student, the free tone colors, san yin, an yin, fan yin, and then the basic fingerings, and then the exercise, and then I give them the Qin temperatures. Okay, when you give a student the tune temperature, you have to explain several things, which include title, the title explanation, 解题, the small headline, 小标题, and the long vertical text to describe the mood of composition and the desired way to play, like in this piece, okay? I'm not going to into detail. And of course, we have to, give them, understanding of the basic fingerings and characteristic fingerings used in different pieces. For example, 观战乐 use a lot the 轮起 or the returning home, 归主来自 use a lot the 撞脑引 时尚流传 use the 斗. So these are specific fingerings used for specific pieces. Musical phrases, rhythm, and finally, of course, is the moodscape. That is the highest state. Then this is all teachers should teach the students. Okay, in terms of the temperature, there is no single standard temperature because it's all based in different schools, lineage, and transmission. But of course, if I teach, I stick to my teacher's temperature, and then I write my own, and then, with, kind of modifications. So let's look at, this is my Qin teacher, 蔡老师, her temperature. You can see she used the Guqin notation and also the number notation together with the 简记谱. But now, of course, no one uses the Guqin notation anymore. And not only that, she also used the dotted to indicate the rhythm. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of rhythmic pattern. Besides the 简记谱 in one temperature. So mostly people don't use this anymore. Okay, the second way of transmission, first is oral and the temperature. Second is oral versus hand finger transmission. That means you learn by close imitation to your teacher's finger and hand movements and plus her, explaining. This is verbal explanation accompanied by repeated demonstration of hand, finger postures and movements. Some teachers will demand students watch and imitate how they play. So my teacher, 蔡老师, described her learning in this way from her teacher. So let's read a little bit. I read fast because otherwise I can't finish. So my teacher, okay, 蔡德云老师, she wrote about how she learned from her teacher, who is Shen Changnong. Okay, so it's my teacher talking now. Quote, during the lesson, my teacher would first teach a few phrases by demonstrating fingerings. He would demonstrate a fingering 3 times, but never more than that. I would stand by watching his hand's direction and listening to each phrase's rhythm. After finishing, teacher would stand up and let me sit down to play. If I made an error, he would correct me until my playing was accurate. Then he would teach a few more phrases. And after I tried several times until there were no more mistakes, I would go home and practice. This would be repeated many, many times until I finished learning a whole piece. That means just by listening to the teacher and closely imitating his fingerings, which would take many visits to my teacher. Only after I learned the whole piece, by watching and listening, would he let me copy his temperature for practice. So another way is you just closely watch a teacher what to play. The third one is oral and heart-mind transmission. That is the highest level. This is commonly used phrase to describe music teaching and learning, 口传心授. It is the highest level of transmission when the student completely grasps the teacher's expertise by intuition. That means you forget about the temperature, you forget about the rhythm, you forget about the musical phrases, you just internalize the whole thing. So you just play it up. In Chinese philosophy, as in Zhuangzi and Canzong, this is described in phrases like transmitting the spirit, 传神愿, transmitting the heart's principle, 传心法, from heart to heart, 以心传心, getting the spirit while forgetting its image, 得意忘相. Okay, the fourth kind of learning is 对谈. But the student needs to completely grasp the piece, at least can kind of play out smoothly. Then the teacher and student will play in unison, or we call opposite playing in traditional usage. So for this unison playing is a traditional way. I think still a lot of teachers are using this method. I do a lot, which the student and the teacher will play together. This shows the student to try to play. This allows the student to try to play as closely as possible in the teacher's style, by imitating the rhythm, fingering, subtle hand, finger movements, vibrato, breath, exactly. exactly those subtleties which cannot be recorded in tablatures. That means a lot is outside the sound, outside the tablature, the very microtonal, sound outside the tablature. Then you have to learn by playing opposite with your teacher. Some cannot be recorded in tablatures. Unison playing can be thought of as transmission also through the heart mind. And this picture shows me and opposite playing with my teacher. There was 32 years ago. And this is my opposite playing with my student. Okay, fifth is singing the strings. This I'm not going into because I find it impractical. It's difficult to learn and it's not much use at all. But Zhang Jiqian, I'm sure most of you have heard about him. He was very famous singing with the strings, singing out the fingerings, but that doesn't work for me. So if you're interested, you can Google online. And the last is moral transmission. And that's very important for traditional literati. Virtue is still the quality they most value in students. In principle, if a student lacks moral character, they would hint for him to discontinue. But I'm not going to read Bell Young's thing, okay? This is my students, and they have very relaxed hand postures. Okay, so the literati's teaching attributes. Learn and perform the tune of solo instrument, mostly, or accompanied by xiao, that's about it. Distinct examination and context because it creates tension, conflicts instead of harmony. That means you don't pursue for the doubt, but you want to compete. So traditional literati tune players kind of disdain that. However, contemporary literary tune players, they have to send the student for competition because then they will be acknowledged, acquire recognition because you have to change with time. And of course, traditional literary organized elegant gatherings like what we're doing now, but we're online, small-scale concerts to perform so we can learn with each other. Okay, so these are two pictures. I organized an elegant gathering in nature, in Staten Island, and also elegant gathering in my apartment. Okay, so now we move to conservatory transmission. Those who are trained in music conservatory, like Shanghai Music Conservatory, all those famous ones, Central Music Conservatory. But they all started after 1918. Before, we didn't have any conservatory trained musician. Conservatory trained musicians emphasize technique and virtuosity, of course. In some ways, they're akin to the ancient professional court musician who performed for rituals and entertainment during imperial court events. Similarly, conservatory students become professional musicians and teachers who perform and teach to make a living. Most of us don't teach the tune to make a living, right? Unless you do that, please let me know. But it just may be a hobby or some side income, but we don't make it, a main income. But conservatory trained, that's their livelihood. They teach, they perform to make a living. So they do this rather than playing the tune like the literati as an elegant pastime or for self-cultivation. Of course, that doesn't mean that they don't do it for these purposes, but it's mainly is performance and then teaching. Okay, their teaching methods and activities. Conservatory trained tune musician. They mostly use hybrid notation. They actually, and especially 5-staff notation. They all use 5-staff notation because they're conservatory. They have to have a standardized, as good as Western music's standardized notation. So that is 5-staff notation. Although, in my opinion, 5-staff notation that's not completely accurate for tune music, but doesn't matter. That's what the conservatories do. All 5-staff notation together with number notation and 简记谱. And also metrical rhythm mostly, and maybe not completely right. They also use a lot of the loose rhythm, but sometimes, a lot of the time, I see them use metronome to beat the rhythm for the students. Minimal use of lingering tones because they think the empty aspect, like the yin now, if it's too long, and then people can't hear, right? But actually, that's one of the most important aesthetic characteristics of tune music. And then for them, it's kind of like dramatic effect. The settings are mainly they play in conservatory music rooms and concert halls. Of course, they also overlap with the traditional literary settings. Go to nature, they also have those. So what I'm saying is, their specified characteristics is not that they're completely separate. Okay, Okay, attributes unique to conservatory teaching. They demand a learning and practicing schedule is strictly technical oriented. So as far as I know, because I also teach a conservatory student, I think generally they have to practice 8 hours a day, 8 hours. If you practice 5 hours, somehow you can catch up. Junie, you want to ask now or you want to wait till I finish? Okay, so I continue, okay? So they have to practice a lot. That's why they're good, because they practice like 8 hours a day in general. So very technically oriented. Doesn't mean they don't have artistic sensitivity or they haven't reached a certain artistic level. I'm not saying that as a completely different, okay? Okay, students are evaluated by examination and contest. Criteria include, you have accurate pitch, that's very important, rhythm, smoothness, personal style, flavor, musicality, musicianship, etc. But that's also actually the requirements of literary players too. Besides traditional repertoire, students will learn works by contemporary composers. They have to learn a lot of pieces, modern pieces by contemporary composers. But a lot of the composers, they are not trained in chin music. They are just composers from the composition department, and they compose a lot of chin pieces for conservatory students to play. And works also, they play a lot of works transposed from other Chinese instruments, such as pipa, zhang, flute. Additional requirements for conservatory people include sight reading. We never do sight reading for literary chin play. Learning how to dapu. They have to write essays or thesis, assigned list of books and chin related material. Dramatic body movements and exaggerated facial expression. That is quite common in conservatory chin musician, in contrast to the relaxed, calm countenance of the literary player. They offer performances before large audiences in concert halls, often with other louder instruments, both Chinese and Western. That's why they have to dramatize the facial expression and the bodily movement. So this is Master Chen Leiji. You can see his bodily movement is very exaggerated, but he's a very, very good player. Okay, and also examination. Beijing Central Music Conservatory organized the National Distinguished Music Teachers Training Project, which provides an examination required to obtain a standard professional teacher's qualification. And that's what conservatory do. And the third kind of chin people, I call it folk or internet chin players. But this can overlap with what do you call it? Conservatory chin musician and also literary, because some literary players, they also can be put on YouTube and have a lot of followers. Okay, so it's an overlap. Today, there is a younger group of literati who learn and teach the chin outside the conservatories. They're not conservatory trained. They constantly post their playings online to gain internet fame. A few of these internet chin celebrities have the ideals, aspirations, and gracefulness of traditional culture literati. These new internet celebrity chin musicians establish large chin studios, and most of them, because they're so successful, they have large online presence, they have large online classes and big chin studios, which sometimes they teach like 70 people in one class. In order to teach last classes, both online and in person. The repertoire mainly includes popular TV songs like 卧龙鸣, Wang Ning Mei, Liang Liang. A lot of this very popular TV theme song is because a lot of chin students, because they're attracted to the chin by listening to this kind of TV theme songs online, so they want to learn. So the teachers have to teach a lot of these popular TV theme songs, which attract students because they are easy to learn. As a result of these trends, the chin is becoming more a spectacle than of an instrument of self-cultivation. So you can see, so this is a spectacle, right? Playing the chin on the Great Wall. So they create a spectacle and then they post online to get followers. And then Liu Liang, and also, of course, to get students. That I think is the main purpose. And then they have pictures like this, of course. But among these internet celebrities, chin musicians, doesn't mean that they're not literary chin players. Among them, they might be. So I think, yeah, that's just a brief introduction to these three kinds of chin players nowadays. So let me know which one you like the best. Thank you very much. That's my talk today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ming Mei.
Thank you.
So once again, we revisit a lot of the themes that were actually explored in the 2018 conference in London as well, where I believe it was Omid Bergin who wrote extensively on the phenomenon of Qinguan in the 2000s to 2010s, as well as the Baudrillardian hyperreal culture of commercialized or commoditized Qin culture in the early 21st century. And you have captured that very well in the long scheme of things. So thank you very much. Anyone have any thoughts, ideas? Well, first of all, I would think that the whole process of the internet and the general access of the Qin as a culture has better promoted the instruments. And in a way, now we're seeing several directions in new compositions. When I saw the compositions and the scores, the staffs of those so-called new compositions from conservatories, I thought very lowly of them because they do not have very good accountability of how it's actually played on the Qin. Sure, it has a 5-line staff. It represents the rhythm and the pitch, but actually a lot of them leaves the actual motions, which strings to hit at which position. That most critical information is intentionally left out. And when I ask the performers or even the composer themselves, like, how do you account for this? And they go like, oh, I'm going to leave it up to a player. I'm sorry?
Yeah, the reason is there's a reason for that. Because, okay, the conservatory like commission or asked the composers, professors of composition, okay, in the conservatory, or even students, composers, students, to write these Qin pieces. And I would say 95% of these professors and Qin composition Qin students
don't know how Qin works.
No, yeah, they don't know much, I would say, because if you're a composition major, you can be able to write for all kinds of instruments. Yeah, you know a little bit about. So they don't know about the Qin, or they study the ancient Qin finger, how to write a composition so it gets out, the flavor of traditional Qin music. They don't know any of this, so that's why they leave it to the Qin students to decide where. They only actually basically is write the melody, but on the however, I have to give them some credit. Is they explore a completely different ways of playing the Qin than the traditional Qin repertoire. It's a completely new thing, and my opinion is, you like it or not, or you can attack they are no good or whatever. You like it or not, they are happening. That means you have to look at it because they're happening, and 100 years from now, they will be part of the so-called traditional Qin repertoire.
The funny thing is,
some are good, in my opinion. Yeah, but it's just completely different from traditional Qin music. That's it.
You can sort of think of it as several ways, just as how modern classical music has worked between like the experimental stuff that stays in the conservatories versus some of the popular new classic stuff that are particularly seen on like classical radios or in computer games these days. Those tend to be more in classical in its composition and its form. So you were mentioning how new compositions often do not emphasize yin nao, the stuff that they find to be characteristically boring. I do not find that to be the case if you look specifically in the genre of game music that uses Guqin these days. So in like Chinese animation, 动画, as well as games, they understand that if people want to pursue for the sounds of the Guqin, this is what they're looking for. Otherwise, they would just use a zheng. So if you look at compositions for these specific genres, you will find that what is missing in these conservatory pieces, they actually make a comeback.
You mean come back in the game, video game, and those
in video game
right?
compositions, you'll see that the Guqin is specifically used for instead of a zheng, for example, because they can do yin nao, and they heavily utilize that sliding notes and vibrato use in order to bring out usually themes of intrigue or mystique.
Okay. I think the modern, as far as I have listened, of course, there are many still modern Qin pieces I haven't listened, but those I have listened is all belong to the Sheng Duo Yun Shao category. That means more tones than lingering tones. They don't use the empty space that much. And why is that? Of course, there's also a reason. Because if there are many sound but less the yin now, less the lingering tones, they attract the audience right away, the attention, because they play, they don't play to teen players most of the time. They tour China to play to different audiences. It's more 声多韵少, more tones than lingering tones. Okay, so then it start to have some composers start to try to imitate more traditional Qin composition to have pieces which is 声少韵多, less tones but more lingering tones, right? But however, if they compose some pieces like that, then they're not as good as the traditional pieces. So most of them, people don't pay attention to those pieces. But the video game area, I don't know, because I never listened to those.
Mm-hmm. But just like how, like in the past, in terms of Western classical music, it has always worked for music has always since worked for like opera and then later on theater and drama. And in today's world, it's no longer just television drama, but also computer games.
Yeah,
the most famous composers nowadays work for computer games.
Then they can make a lot of money by being Qin musicians, right?
Any other observations, anyone? And thank you for coming, Alexander. And thank you for listening to all of our ideas.
Thank you, everyone.
I have a question for Mingmei. Do you think the global economic situation can affect the number of people interested in learning the Qin?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I really don't think so. How to put it? Because there are always people can afford to learn the Qin, right? I mean, and people who are really interested. But the problem is not whether the economic situation affect people try to learn the Qin. It's always whether they can continue that passion to learn the Qin. So, for example, some of my students come and go, always like that. No matter how well you teach, they come and go. I mean, I have a few stay for 10 years, but only a few. But I teach a lot more than a few, right? But they come and go. I think the most important is several reasons. One is just too hard. After a while, it's just too difficult. They have to memorize, they have to go back to practice the old pieces. They just don't want to bother anymore. And it's not like, so learning, not just the Qin calligraphy painting, exactly the same. You want to succeed, you have to have persistence. That's the number one. That's even more than you have talent. And I always told my students, you can play up to 2 Fengqi. Everyone has talent because Qin is much easier than you play the piano. Much, much easier. So you can play the 12 Fengqi, you can finish the whole repertoire. I teach about 50 songs, okay? So, but that is that they don't have the persistence and then they're distracted by other things. But those who are seriously interested, they will continue. I don't think, okay, and sometimes, okay, even if they think, oh, I couldn't afford, maybe you're too expensive. But I always can say, then you can learn every other week or even a month. I mean, I don't mind that. You don't have to, you can learn 45 minutes. So I don't think money is a problem for those people. It's more the passion and the persistence. Some people just don't have that. After a while, and then they go on to do something else. So I don't think the economy affect at all. I don't think you have to worry. Yeah, if you're a good teacher, you have a good website because people know that who you are, and you get, I mean, not necessarily get a lot of students, but you will get enough students. That's my experience. Yeah.
I do see where Peyo's question or concern, you can even say, comes from. I do realize that I have had a lot less Qin students after the pandemic. And it's not just a global economic downturn, but also accessibility to the art itself. I mean, it is much harder to import a chin to North America these days.
What do you mean by harder? It's very easy now. You can buy from Amazon.
But it's a little different when it's in the past, where there's at least a more referral and a human touch to it. Nowadays, making it too easy actually makes it a little harder for them to determine to find a good chin, and because of that, to stay dedicated to it because of the preciousness of the whole process of getting the instrument.
I don't agree with that. It's very easy to get an instrument. It's very cheap. I mean, beginner's chin, I'm talking about, not those expensive ones. $300, $400 you can get from Amazon. And then they ship within a week. Very, very easy. That's why I ask my students, go online, go to Amazon or whatever.
Yeah, but do they sound good?
Yeah,
of course not. But
there's the doubt of the snobbishness of that.
Yeah, of course not. But it's before they lose interest, they don't want to lose a lot of money. So if they really serious interested, then they pay $2,000, $3,000 for a much better one. But for beginners, I always ask them, you go on Amazon and get a chin on your own. I mean, I don't want to connect you with.
There's a different level of dedication and a reward when they actually find that chin hidden away in some world music store in the city that it took a while for them to find. The reward actually gives them a lot more dedication to learning, I find.
What reward are you referring to? What kind of
the fact that they actually found the instrument for them to be able to learn the instrument itself?
No, I really don't agree with that. It's very easy to get an instrument.
That's exactly the problem. It's too easy.
It's more personal that way. If you find the instrument in some out of the way place, it's more of a dedication just from the beginning.
Just as in the Cultural Revolution period or before, it's virtually impossible to find any immediately new made chins, so everyone has to transmit their old chins.
That era, of course, is very, very difficult.
That leads to a very dedicated generation of people.
But I have one more thing to add. The student, whether they want to continue, is sometimes it's really too hard. For some students, they the first 2 lessons of the first month, they can continue. But after the, maybe 7, 8 months, it's really too difficult. They just can't stand it. It's too difficult. Then they drop out. So my students always come and go.
Yes.
I think one reason the student continue is actually a lot to do with the teacher. I mean, besides, of course, you have to teach well. Number 1, right? You have to have the knowledge, you have to teach well. And number 3, I think it's very important. You have to have a very good personality for the student to stick to you, because I have like 2 or 3 students. They always tell me, okay, before I have your lesson, one has to drive like an hour to take lesson to me. He said, before that, I'm so excited. I can't sleep. That's very, what do you call it? Flattering to me, right? So it's not just because you teach well or you have a lot of knowledge, but I think it depends a lot of a teacher's personality. So you can go ahead to guess what personality appeals to the students, right? And I do know some teachers, they scold the students severely. Of course, it's number 1 no to me. Never scold your student, no matter how you think is below standard or they don't practice. Never scold your student. Why? They pay you to take lessons. Why you scold someone who pay you, right? I mean, so some people are too impatient to teach it and scold or other ways to make the teaching experience or the learning experience kind of unpleasant. You never do that. You have to like make the teaching and the learning a very pleasant experiences for both teacher and students, even if they don't practice. Never scold them. You just have to kind of inspire them or lure them, right, to do the right thing. But never scold the students. Or you have to balance something is too difficult for this particular student. 有叫就是那个的恩才细教, Confucius said, right? I mean, you determine on the student and you teach accordingly. So that means as a teacher, you have to have a lot of tools in the back of your mind. These students particularly good at certain things, so I teach her accordingly. This is particularly fast, so I teach her faster. This is particularly slow, so I use different ways to teach. I have a student, she cannot learn rhythm. No matter how I very minutely teach her about rhythm, how to beat, she can never learn it. She doesn't have that brain because she learned as an adult, don't forget, not the children. So finally I said, okay, I will teach you another way. So don't learn the rhythm. The theory part, I mean, she just can't learn it. So how does she learn? Just opposite playing with me, unison playing with me until the rhythm just internalized. Anyway, chin rhythm is free. I mean, it's not like strict like that, like the bar lines and everything. So as a teacher, you have to think of all ways to make your student happy and satisfied so they feel they accomplished something. Unless they completely don't practice them, then I can't do anything. And that's my experience.
And I think that in the future, there should be a demarcation of chin as several subjects. So one is just playing, the other is maybe history, and another for theory. I think these deserve to be different courses or topics that, they have each their own class for.
I completely agree with you. But some teachers are good at all those. Just should offer some online courses, because like to me personally, let's say I teach my student, I teach a little bit theory, but they don't have the music background. You teach them, it's no use. And I can't systematically teach music theory to a personal in-person student one-to-one. It's just too difficult. So either I set up an online course and, that's okay. But otherwise, it's just too difficult. But I do mention music theory, when it's suitable at the moment.
And that's actually one point when I actually like to promote one of our colleagues in Hong Kong, Dr. Victor Tse Zhengyan's new book on the 72 questions of advanced learning. I wish the thing was in English, but of course, he's done a lot already just by releasing it in Chinese.
Where did you get it? I got it in Hong Kong this time.
I had to get someone to mail it over to me. So
okay.
I spent like 3 times the actual price of the book.
Yeah, of course.
To get the thing.
And to promote myself, here's my new book.
Yes.
There's a lot of cultural, aesthetic, philosophy, and also theory. This is my second chin book. And this is my first one. I'm sure some of you have this already. This is the first one. Oh, you have mine? Okay. Which one?
No, this is actually Victor Tse's book.
Victor Tse's book, they look the same. Okay.
Yes. So definitely, I was actually intending that originally my second book was to write something like this. But I didn't have enough knowledge at the time. And I think I can only begin working after my current book is done. But a lot of what I wanted to do is already covered by Victor. So props to him. Now, the only part is I'm supposed to get it into English.
You mean your book?
No, his book. Maybe you should talk to him to release the same thing in English. Yeah, have him translate himself.
Yeah, he has to translate himself. No one's going to do that. I mean, I'm not going to do it because I have my own book to write. So he has to do it on his own. Yeah.
He's definitely capable of it.
Yeah, of course. But he has to do it.
Okay, so we are now at 5:25 p.m. So over the past 2.5 hours, we have enjoyed 2 different performances and 3 different speakers on the intricacies of self-learning and teaching and the process of what it means to study the chin, from playing to the theory and the history and the aesthetics, and how all of it ties together. Hopefully, this would encourage one to expand our horizon so that when we learn or even teach others in the future generation, that there are many different ways to approach the topic, and hopefully we can stoke that fire, that natural fire, to be more encouraged to learn this instrument a little further. So thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see each other again in 2 months, where we will have our next regular gathering. Thank you everyone for coming, and have a nice weekend.
Yeah, let me just thank Uni and Andre for helping set everything up for this meeting. I know they worked hard. So
thank you.
Yes. Both.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph, for recording.
Thank you, everyone.
Next time.
Next time. Thank you. Wonderful. Bye-bye.